Greetings, all.
Why, hello there.
Welcome all tonight. We're going to do a dive into the new show focusing on everybody's favorite purple archers, Hawkeye.
Archer is plural.
Archers, plural. There's more than one.
Oh, it's been a while since I guess it hasn't been that long since we dove on a Marvel property, but
Not too long. Loki wasn't that long ago. And then there was What If.
there was, there was. My God, the rate that stuff is coming out though, and we
Oh,
talked about this before. There's enough stuff coming out that it can be difficult to stay on top of it if we're going to potentially do this particular style of review on that. So
well, there's
fortunately,
so much out there, it's hard to keep up.
yeah, and I'm not going to argue with you on that because it's just there's so much out now and there's so much more coming. So what? How many parts are we on this one?
We are,
6 parts.
there's 6 episodes, and we already have two of
Yeah,
them given to us.
and
So,
that's going to take us right up to December
yep,
when we get right back into our Star Wars stuff with
the Book of Boba
Book of
Fett.
Boba Fett. So it's Wes and Andy.
Yep.
Here we are back for another edition of Fandom Power. This time it's on target. That's our pithy title for this particular Marvel series, and it's again it's our deep dive on Marvel Studios Hawkeye. So
Yep. Our regular co-host Hank, he can't join us this evening, but he's quietly working away on some future
he's
projects
busy
out
making
there, and
music, man.
it's going to be good.
There's a lot of creative stuff going on here between the team.
Yep. So while the character of Clint Barton has been around since June of 1964, he has adopted a number of personas over the years. One of which they pulled into the MCU, and that would be Ronan. And because of that, the Hawkeye series is able to bring our two main characters much quicker together than they did in the comic.
Well, see, this is it. I've said it before, but the MCU at this point, it is my window into the comic books, right? I mean, the movie, or sorry, the comic books have influenced the movies. The movies have now influenced sort of the comic books, and it's this. We've said it before. It's this like tail wagging the dog kind of scenario
It
now,
really is.
and I am so out of touch with what's happening in comic books now that, like I say, this is my window. So when I see this stuff, I'm like, okay, this is what's happening.
Fair enough. Our second hero of the show is Kate Bishop, and she's been around a while now as well, making her first appearance in Young Avengers #1 back in 2005.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but she did not adopt the Hawkeye title for at least 1 year because that would be passed on to her
Okay.
by Captain America, officially taking the mantle and giving it to her in the June 2006 issue of Young Avengers.
Well, so here I want to talk about this for a second is the Young Avenger thing because my my only exposure to Young Avengers is through the Marvel Studios directed DVD uh animated film Young Avengers where now was she a part of that? I don't remember her being a
I
part of that. She might have
cannot
been. I can't
recall.
remember. Uh does the team essentially follow that kind of
I don't think it's going to follow that through this series, but all current series seem to be laying foundations for it.
for Young Avengers?
Yeah.
That in the comic books it's or sorry in the animated film it's what there's a child between Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff who is essentially the new Captain America. Is that
Hmm.
do I understand that right? I don't know
Yeah,
if I do or
quite
not.
possibly. I cannot recall it for the life
Yeah,
of me
yeah.
at the moment, though.
It's an interesting the film is actually it's not that bad. It's okay. Basically it's a Ultron is the villain and they
Hmm.
need to go and find the Hulk who helps them out to finish it. But
Makes sense.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here we have our comic book version of Kate Bishop
Oh, interesting.
in the full purple. So purple is the big theme,
Sure, sure.
and there are some slight changes to her origin, like differing from the comic book version. And We have Jeremy Renner returning as Clint Barton
Yep.
from his appearances, and this go around we have Haley Steinfeld
Steinfeld. Yeah, yeah,
in the role of Kate Bishop.
yeah. Do you remember her in anything else before Bumblebee?
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay,
You
because
may
I
remember
don't.
her from the remake of True Grit with Matt
Wait,
Damon.
wait. So are you telling me that was her
That
in
was
True Grit?
Maddie. That was Maddie.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then in the Pitch Perfect franchise as well.
Okay, well, see, now
And
Pitch Perfect is not my thing, so.
that's my wife's thing, so that's why I'm exposed to it there. But yeah,
Man, she was like, I'm a huge, no surprise, I'm a huge Transformer fan, so I really enjoyed her role in Transformers. And so when they said, oh, she was going to play the new Hawkeye, I'm like, oh, that could be fun and funny. But I did not realize that that was her in True Grit. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So our first episode goes like this. It's called Never Meet Your Heroes with a runtime of 50 minutes, directed by Rhys Thomas and written by Jonathan Igla.
Okay.
So this episode opens in 2012 with a quick fly through to establish that from an early age, Kate has been a high achiever in many different aspects. And as we fly through, we get some trophies, we get some memorabilia, and I think it's important to point out that the pattern on the frame is no coincidence.
Uh, Wait a minute. When you say the pattern on the frame of
Uh,
the photo, or
yeah, with all the little hexagons.
are you saying that we're tying that back to WandaVision, or
I don't necessarily know that we're tying it directly to WandaVision, but considering Wanda's connection to the Avengers, the West Coast Avengers,
okay?
probably not mistaken.
See, now, to me, like, my as I say, the shows and the movies, that is my window into the comic book. So when I see the hexagonal motif, I automatically think, when you say like, oh, we're gonna look at this, I'm like, it's got to be WandaVision because of the dome, the magic effect.
True. Um, the pattern is not the only thing to note here. Also, you got to take notice that Father Derek is more prevalent in her life. In the comic books, he was more absentee,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
and in this version, it's she's daddy's girl,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and even daddy is like trying to convince her to bond more with the mother. But we find out that Derek and Eleanor are having a fight about money, and Kate is eavesdropping through a vent and accidentally knocks over a book, cueing her parents that she's been listening. And dad comes up to check, and outside names, it doesn't appear like they're leaning too much into the comic book origins,
Okay.
because the parents go, as far as parents go in this version, Derek is like, caring, attentive, protective of his daughter.
Sure.
And, he's even suggesting, go have lunch with your mom so he can get some work done and you can bond. And it's really clear, like, she favors him over her, but that doesn't stop her from trying.
I thought, in the first episode, there is a stark change in the characterization to Kate's mother in 2012 when we see them sort of pre Invasion of New York to where we pick up, what, 5, 6, 7 years later or
At
whatever.
least, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like, there is a sharp contrast to the way that she's portrayed, you know, when Kate is obviously young versus when we pick up the series in real time.
Yeah. Because, like, she's trying. She's like, moms can be cool too.
There's this thing almost where it's like, you wonder. And I mean, I saw some comments online about the mom, where it's like, given how different she is after her husband's death, you wonder, like, did she have anything to do with the death of Armand the Third?
Well, again, if you lean into the comics, there might be.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting.
But for now, no.
Okay. All right.
um, she goes upstairs to get the checkers, and mom's downstairs checking on
Right, right,
something. And it is 2012 in New York,
right.
and we get a Chitauri whale ship flying by.
Yeah, I don't know about you. For me, watching this, it was like as soon as they said 2000, I saw 2012 on the screen. I'm like, oh, the Chitauri invasion is about to happen,
Yeah.
like any minute, and it did not disappoint.
No, it did not. We're even treated to a really, I mean, it's a heartbreaking visual, but it's a striking visual as well.
Yeah,
Uh, as one of the explosions rips, I'm guessing, the father's office apart,
yeah,
and we're left
yeah,
with
yeah,
poor little Kate Bishop staring up at Stark Tower.
yeah, yeah. I guess at this point, is it Stark? Yeah, I guess it is
It
Stark
is
Tower at
Stark
that point,
Tower at this point. Yeah.
with just the A and what is that, the K hanging there on the end of it.
Yeah. But,
Did you see that there's a thing that has just come out here in the last couple of days talking about Stark Tower?
I have not.
There's a line in the series where, or in the first couple episodes, where they say, "Oh, he sold Stark Tower or
Yes.
Avengers Tower."
Yep.
Did you hear that there's a rumor about who bought it?
Yeah, I've heard the rumor.
So the rumor goes that perhaps the Kingpin is the owner. Is it Fisk Tower now?
Oh, I did not hear
That's
that
not what
one.
you heard.
I did not
What
hear
did
that
you
one.
hear?
I heard that it might be now the Baxter building.
Oh, that's an even better. Given the level of security in that place and what the Baxter building kind of represents, that actually makes that makes it even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the Chitari continue to bear down, and we see one flying right at her. And it turns out that it is Hawkeye,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
who, with a shot, not even knowing he was saving her, saves her.
And this is that sequence in the film. If you go all the way back to
Yeah.
2012,
It's just from
that's
a
that.
different angle.
Yeah, it's that sequence where we follow Hawkeye right off the roof of the building.
And he grapple hooks back into her
Yeah,
next
yeah,
floor
yeah,
down.
yeah.
But pretty quick, Eleanor finds her, and she's just like, mesmerized by what's going on out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And sadly, though, we do find out that her father was killed.
Yeah, and I mean it's not it's not the big like finding the remains of your dad. It's literally the corner of the building is
Gone.
ripped off.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this diverges from the comics because in the comics, it was Eleanor who died on a trip rather than Derek in an attack.
Oh, interesting.
And Kate worries, what if they come back? But Eleanor does her best to reassure that they won't.
Yeah, she says something to the effect of because the heroes
The heroes
will
made them
yeah,
go away.
yeah, interesting.
But Kate
Funny
reasserts, I need to protect us.
and funny, they do come back.
They do.
Yeah.
But Eleanor says, what do you need? And she says, I need a bow and arrow.
Yeah, watching this the first run through, and as soon as she said, I need something, and as soon as she said it, I turned to my wife and I'm like, a bow and arrow. And then, of course, he came through with it. I'm like, ah,
There you go. So this was a long sequence, but it
yeah,
sets her up. And to keep it moving along, we finally get to the show intro, and it's an animated montage of Kate's path to becoming better through archery, gymnastics, fencing, martial
yeah,
arts.
yeah. So I mean, she's a multidisciplinary.
And like not some slouch, she's a champion in all these things.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen montages before. I mean, Rocky obviously is probably the most famous for the training montage.
Yeah.
Is there a better way to do that, especially when we're talking about a young person here? I think it's the easiest way to establish that she's, you know,
She's been training. She
well, this
hasn't been
is
just
it. Like,
idly going through.
I know I'm supposed to buy into the fact that she's kind of on this like elite level. Certainly, she's not Clint, and
No.
she's not Natasha. Although, from the visuals,
With time, she could
well,
be
this
there.
is it. I mean, visually speaking, the show would have you believe that she is kind of some middle ground between them, like in terms of style, right down to the head scissor Natasha with the head scissor in every movie,
True.
and Kate pulls it off in the first two episodes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we do catch up with her at university in the present day, and we're treated to our first Easter egg. And that would be a plaque showing that the university clock tower is named after Obadiah Stane.
So I caught the Stain Tower thing. I didn't know if that's what they were going for.
That is absolutely what they're
Yeah,
going
yeah,
for.
yeah.
It says it was rededicated on July 1st of 2006 by Obadiah Stane.
Obadiah Stane
In honor of
Jeff Bridges.
Yep.
all the way back to Iron Man 1.
and True Grit.
And yes, and True Grit.
So we get that, and then we come to find a purple-clad Kate has taken a bet to ring the clock tower.
Yeah.
And with a well-placed shot, she lands it, but it just kind of like a bing.
The whole sequence plays like this. It's played for comedy.
Totally
And
is.
it works. I didn't think it was going to go down the way it did. I didn't think she was going to drop the entire thing.
Well, I think you really need to read that plaque and realize that that's the oldest clock tower in America.
Okay.
So, it's been there forever.
Yeah,
and
sure.
in dire need of repair.
Oh.
So, I mean, really, she's doing them a favor.
If you're not the one paying for it.
Well, she's not.
No, she's not.
But we do see her line up, and we get to see her use her first trick, arrow.
The tennis ball arrow.
Tennis ball with a little bit of a grappling hook on it.
Yeah.
And with a couple minor adjustments, she launches that thing, and it finds its mark grabbing the rope and ringing the bell. But old as it is, the bell ringing causes it to come loose, and it's causing significant damage to it.
Would this have played better if they'd actually given us some indication that the bell hasn't rung in X number of years?
That's possible.
Because I thought, what's the big deal about making the bell ring? And then next thing you know, it's falling apart.
Yeah, I think a bit more of a light on that, saying how old it was, could have played
Maybe,
better.
yeah, maybe.
But that would have given away your Easter egg too, right? So
Yeah.
But as it's ringing and destroying the tower, campus security catches her, and it's just crumbling behind her, like falling to pieces.
Yeah.
And then we cut to New York at Christmas time, where we
Oh,
find
boy.
Rogers the musical on opening night.
So we talked about this before. We talked about the Disney Plus day that we did, and I think I had mentioned to you like, hey, do you think we're gonna see any of the actual musical?
And yes, we do. We get to see almost one entire song.
What did you think of the Rogers the musical?
It wasn't bad.
Would you pay money for it?
I might.
I looked at it like, are they really doing this like, can't really lie about this. The performances are over the top.
Oh, absolutely.
It's almost satirical in its portrayal, and you have to wonder like, did they do that on purpose?
I think so, because we cut to a glimpse. We find Clint and the kids are actually in the audience, and both Clint and Lila are kind of, rolling
Well, I
their
mean,
eyes.
look at the expression. They literally have the same expression, like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, you and I talked about this before, and it's like, wait, so Clint is actually going to see this. It's a musical about an event in his life.
Yep.
The question was, did he pay for his tickets?
I would assume so.
I agree with you, because I'm thinking like, but the reverse side of that is, you've gone and you've made Rogers the musical. We know that Steve is no longer with us at this point. The events of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier have occurred, and now Sam Wilson is Captain America. But you got to think that if you were a superhero and you were involved in saving the world multiple times, that if they made a musical about your life, you would be invited to the premiere.
Hmm.
Don't you think like the surviving members of the Avengers would have been invited?
You would think so, but Kate Bishop's character actually brings up a nice point later in episode 2.
Yeah,
about his branding and how he's
she
always
does
been
say
like
that
the low key Avenger, the one that's kind of shied away. And
it's not his ability; it's his. He's just not. He's not visible enough because he doesn't have the right branding.
yeah,
Interesting.
but back to the musical.
Yeah,
As the show continues, he gets to see somebody portray Natasha on stage,
right.
and he kind of focuses in and gets lost on it, with her being gone. But pretty quick, Lila picks up on this, and are you okay?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine.
It's that whole. To me, it's that whole notion of. We saw it in Endgame where the whole "it should have been me."
Yeah,
And I think that it's that. I think the word survivor
survivor's
guilt.
guilt.
Yeah.
But she quickly recognizes this, and then he's also recognized by another young fan a few rows over, and he gets a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit overwhelmed by
Yeah.
it. So he's like, I need a break. and he goes off and takes his break for a minute. But a side note here, the musical number that we see in the show has been released by Marvel in its entirety
Oh,
for
wow.
everyone to listen to. So if you want to go find it, it is Save the City.
Okay, wait. So I mean, is it on streaming?
It is on YouTube right now.
Oh, it's on YouTube. Okay, so that's cool.
So you get the musical version and just basically this screen. But
Do you get? He needs a break, and where does he go? I mean, naturally, where do you go when you need to get away?
yeah, go to the bathroom.
The bathroom.
And once he's in there, some graffiti causes some pause for thought. And
Now,
somebody
is
has
that
written Thanos was right.
okay? So that I think it's the first time we've seen it, and oh my god,
First time we've seen it since Falcon and Winter Soldier,
did
because
it?
the basis of that was, Thanos wasn't wrong.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. The idea that there is a portion of the population that actually believes or thinks that he was right.
Yeah.
That's a tough nut to crack. A tough one to swallow, really.
Mm. But in the bathroom, he's approached by yet another fan who's leaning in.
Oh,
Like, this is not the time to do it, but he leans in like one stall over. He's like, oh, a selfie would be really rad.
the whole idea, like, hey man, can you give me an autograph? And Clint in his this isn't the time. And then the next scene is him washing his hands, and it's
And
like a
Buddy's
how
right
about
behind him
how
again.
about now?
Yeah.
Like, what part of that do you not get? Like, I'll see you outside.
Yeah. Outside this particular room.
Just a quick segue on that. Like, that's a real. I that that's happened to celebrities, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it happens like that all the time. But specifically, I'm a big fan of the band Rush, and the lead singer and bass player for Rush, Geddy Lee, actually cites that exact example about being asked for an autograph in the bathroom, and he said, my hands are kind of full, ha ha ha, literally, as he's holding on to himself going to the bathroom, like I'll see you outside, kind of thing. So when they actually made the joke out of that, I'm like, oh, you've seen the same interview I've seen.
It was also a joke in the Big Bang Theory because Sheldon has restraining orders against him for that very thing.
Against
Leonard Nimoy, I
yes,
believe.
Leonard Nimoy. That's
But,
so funny.
yeah, with all that, he goes seeking refuge and he goes outside for some air.
Right.
But pretty quick, Lila finds him. And again, showing wisdom beyond her years, she tells him it's okay if he doesn't want to watch the show because she knows Natasha was his best friend.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think it's that? Do you think that there's been, because I know this kind of comes up in a broader sense about who knows what about Clint Barton, particularly where Ronan is concerned, because we learn that the general public
Does
clearly
not
does
know.
not know. So then you have this, like, we know Natasha and Clint were very close. I mean, there's the running joke about Budapest throughout the entire MCU, and then
Yeah.
finally we get to experience what Budapest is. How much did he actually tell his family?
I think he told his wife everything,
You think so?
but maybe not everything to the kids.
Yeah, yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's
Because
fair.
with that, his sons come out as well. And they decide they're going to bail on the rest of the musical in favor of other Christmas time activities
Yeah,
in New
yeah, yeah,
York.
yeah.
And we switch gears and we find Kate has arrived back in the city. And her mother, phones her and says, you got to come here first.
Right.
But the reunion goes from pleasant to admonishment fairly quickly because Eleanor is now on the hook to replace an irreplaceable clock tower. So she tells her, starting with this, we've canceled your credit cards and we're going to have a longer discussion later about this
Well,
tower.
there's something else that I did not pick up on immediately, was that they are like uber wealthy.
Yep.
I did not get that. I'm like, oh, okay. I actually thought that Armand's nephew, our main protagonist for the show, I actually thought he was the one with the money, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe there was a life insurance policy on the dad,
Maybe.
not realizing that, oh, they own a very large corporation
Yeah,
that
a
makes,
security
yeah,
firm.
that makes a ton of money.
Yeah.
I mean, who's paying for that apartment, right?
Yeah. But she tells her, rich people think they're invincible and teenagers think they're invincible. And
Yeah.
you're both.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
can't keep doing this like you are. And she says, you should accompany me to this charity auction. But before they can move on, she looks around and Kate asks her, what's going on with all the swords? And this is definitely some foreshadowing.
Well, even I had the same sort of like, what? This is the decor of the apartment is like stark contrast to their apartment in
Yeah.
2012. So clearly, I mean, it's the boyfriend. It's not.
Yeah, it's his influence because we are pretty quickly introduced to a character named Jack, played by Tony
Yes,
Dalton.
anglicized from the French.
Hmm.
Jacques.
Yes, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Okay.
You may recognize him from his other portrayals, particularly as Lalo Salamanca in Better Call Saul.
Oh, see, now I'm so behind on that I wouldn't have known that.
Oh, you got to catch up on that one.
Okay, fair enough.
Jack quickly whisks Eleanor away to the auction party, and Kate is visibly taken aback at his presence. But her mom tells her, we'll talk more at the party. And we get to cut back to Clint, who is now enjoying a meal with the kids.
Do you know, just for a second here, the phone call? What are you doing? Oh, I've just got to, go home, go to my apartment. Well, come here first.
Yeah.
And then she goes there first. And then for what?
Well, we find out at the party for what. But
I know we find out for what, but it's just like when you're watching it the first time through, it's like,
you could have said something there.
why didn't you? And then have to, yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. That sets up the other part with Armand. We cut back to Clint, who is enjoying the meal and making plans to go see a huge Christmas tree down the street. And they get an unexpected phone call from his wife, Laura, played again by Linda Cardellini.
Yeah, Linda Cardellini.
Yeah, she's returning again. And she expects them home the next day for Christmas holidays. And they finish up their call. And as the waiter approaches, he tells Clint, dinner's on us. And Clint's like, no, that's not necessary. But
Sure,
he's like,
sure.
it is necessary. You saved the city.
Well, and good for him. I mean, that there is some recognition there. I mean, have we had the moment where the Times Square bit where like, look, a superhero?
Not yet. That comes
Oh,
later.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It's the inverse of that, right?
Yeah.
Because in that scene, it's like, look, a superhero, and the kids run right past him to the ones in costume.
Yeah.
Right.
So they switch a lot. Like you shift gears between the two of them a
Yeah.
whole lot throughout both episodes.
Right.
And next we shift back over to the party, and Kate has arrived, but not in the red dress laid out for her by her mother.
No. I'm gonna do it my way.
Yeah, she shows up in a black tuxedo, all black, and is mistaken more than once for one of the waiters.
For a server.
And
hey, what are you doing here?
Basically. But in doing this, she does run into old family friend Armand Duquesne the third.
Yes.
And that particular actor is played by Simon Callow.
Yeah.
And they banter back and forth about old times and new. And he spills the beans
about
the upcoming wedding.
His nephew and her mother are now engaged.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which leads her to confront her mother pretty quick, citing that this is incredibly fast. But Eleanor asks her, is there not a part of you that can be happy for me?
And that's a fair question too.
Yep.
I think that's the whole, when you're a kid, I mean, everything is, man, your whole world is sort of, I mean, I've lived through a divorce, and even at the age of, oh my God, it was 18 when it happened. It still is a bit of a like, oh. So, I mean, how old would she have been in 2012? What do we think here?
Oh,
is she college graduate at this point?
No. She says she's 22 at this point.
She's 22, and I would peg her for 12.
Probably
10 or 12, 11 or 12 in 2012.
Oh, there's some math to take in too, because there's a 5-year jump between Infinity War and Endgame.
We don't know, was she or her parents any of the 50%?
We don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
Yeah, but she's taken aback by it, and she says, "I need some air." And she goes outside, and it's at this point she meets the one-eyed dog.
Yep.
And this particular dog had a much longer path being introduced in the comic version.
Okay.
He was introduced as Arrow, and he belonged to Ivan Banyanis.
Okay.
Of the Tracksuit Mafia.
Okay.
And after Clint Barton showed him a little bit of kindness, he turned on Ivan, attacking one of the tracksuits, which ends up
Nice.
costing him his left eye.
Nice.
So Clint, rushes him to the veterinary and saves him and eventually renames him Lucky.
Lucky. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And he would eventually come to live with Clint and Kate.
Yeah.
But when Kate moves to Los Angeles, she takes him with him.
Oh, cool.
But for the MCU, this is his first introduction, and he quickly runs off.
Yeah.
Kate heads back in, though, and she finds her mother in a hallway with Armand, and they're in an argument.
Yes, they are.
And we never do find out about what, because when she asks her mother, why was Armand threatening you? She just brushes it off and says, I don't even know. Let's go back to the party.
And she did the exact, you know what? In that moment, she did exactly what I would have done. I just witnessed some dude shaking down my mom.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell that you could convince me of not confronting that person.
Yeah.
I would have done exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Because she says, oh, yeah, I'll come back to the party. But instead, turns around and follows Armand.
Right.
And she's pretty quick on her feet, though, because she adapts, knowing that she already looks like one of the wait staff.
Yeah.
She grabs a tray through the kitchen and follows him down to the wine cellar.
Yeah.
Where she finds him, Jack, and a whole host of other rich folks engaging in an illegal auction. And, the auctioneer's like, these items are for home display only. And they have no idea where you got them
you have
from.
no idea where you got these from.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, her cover is quickly blown by the other waiter. And she makes a quick retreat to a shadowy corner where she inadvertently finds some Russian criminals plotting behind a doorway.
Right.
And the next item up for bid turns out to be the sword of Ronin.
The Ronin sword. Okay. So there's a huge divergence here from the previous appearance of this weapon.
Because they explain that it is a retractable sword.
Yeah.
That completely contradicts what we saw in Endgame.
The fact that Clint had a sheath on his back.
Yeah, with no need to retract.
Right. The fact that it's now a retractable thing. I had said to you earlier in the week, I'm like, was that a budgetary thing? But then again, you've got to come up with the CGI to retract it. So I mean, clearly, you're spending more money on it.
I think they did it strictly for a story beat because the next one would not make any sense.
The next item on the
no, the next part that happens.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Because bidding, it starts at 200,000, and it's Jack and Armand who are bidding in a war for it.
Right.
And Armand remarks to him, you don't have the money.
Yeah.
Jack slyly says, I'll inherit it someday.
Yeah. So
and perhaps some more foreshadowing.
I was gonna say, is that our first indication that Jack is perhaps not as honest with his fiance as he should have been?
Well, that we find out, no, he's not being completely honest.
He plays the playboy type, if I can use the stereotype, but for Armand to say you don't have that kind of money.
Yeah. But at the same time, they're feeding us this clue, and I think it's a throwaway, like a red herring.
Oh, okay.
Because the final price, $475,000, it goes to Armand.
Yeah.
And just as the next item comes up for bid, it's the companion piece, the Ronin costume, also recovered from the Avengers compound.
The Avengers, yes.
An explosion rips through the place, and it causes the building to shake and the power to go out. And in all the confusion, Jack rushes up and grabs the sword.
So this is where, I don't know, exactly how you've structured your notes, but at this point, do we suspect that Jack is directly in league with the tracksuit gang?
I would say no, because in a couple seconds here, as he's trying to leave, they're ready to gun him down.
I guess so. That's, yeah.
But as far as the retractable portion goes, he needs to fit it in his jacket. And
you know
fit
what?
That thing in
no, there's no way you could conceal that.
No. So I think that is why. But
that's it. Okay, good story beat though, I guess, to do that. Maybe there was more than one Ronin sword.
It's quite possible.
I guess,
had his main one and a backup one.
I guess so.
But Jack makes his play. He grabs the sword and stuffs it in his pocket before going to look for Armand. And the criminals make their way through the building. And they remark, we only have 90 seconds to find the watch. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah. And they say the watch, this ambiguous, find it. Wait, what are we talking about?
Yeah, and they never really dive back in on that,
No, but
but
where are you at with that?
I've got a possibility.
And what do you think?
I'll get there in a
Okay,
second.
okay. We'll hold it for later.
Yeah. Uh, so the question really is, if the Ronin sword and the costume were recovered from the Avengers compound,
Yeah.
what else was about to come up in this auction?
Yeah, you got two items. So, I mean, what else? That's a perfect question, too. What else could have been pulled out of there?
Yeah, because as we see Kate wanting to escape and yet conceal her identity, she's given an opportunity, and she grabs the Ronin suit.
Well, I mean, can I just speculate for a second?
Sure.
I'm going to give you one line from that movie, and just keep in mind the future of Marvel television and what's coming when I say canopy, canopy, canopy.
Mm,
What else came out of there? Do
possibly
you know
some
what I
more
mean?
armor.
Like with the Armor Wars series
Looming.
announced,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, Rhodey just popped, like he ejected out of a suit underneath that compound. Like,
And then went and found a different one,
right.
the Patriot
Yeah,
version.
the new Iron Patriot.
Yeah.
So definitely, again, the reach of Tony Stark, it is
Far
far
reaching.
reaching. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So meanwhile, the criminals are loading up a laundry truck outside with bags and bags full of stolen stuff. So it leaves you the question, what is in there?
Yeah.
But Jack, Armand, and some others, they're trying to leave, and they're stopped by a masked criminal at gunpoint. And Armand's like, "Don't you know who I am?"
Right,
Trying to
right.
throw his rich status around, but doesn't matter the
Yeah, they
criminal.
don't care.
No. But before he can fire, he's quickly dispatched by Kate in the Ronin suit.
Yes.
And she's like, "Come on, let's go, get out of here." And the criminals just open fire. And while the other upstairs guests they're leaving down in the basement, one criminal's like, "It's a Ronin, it's a Ronin."
It's interesting that they immediately recognize.
They do, and that lets us know that they have crossed paths technically with Clint in the past.
Yes.
But one criminal gets the drop on her, and he's looking at her, and he's like, "Ronin," because she's a lot smaller than Clint
Yes,
was,
way more slight, a little shorter.
smaller in the frame.
Yeah.
But she manages to take a few more out before making her exit out the hole they blew in the wall. And outside, we see that the criminals have indeed acquired the watch. And we find out, yes, it was another item recovered from the Avengers compound.
Oh, when you
So
see that,
when I
the
see
watch
this,
with the red face and it's, I mean, very clearly it's a Tony Stark
yeah, which
or
it
watch.
it really closely resembles this limited edition luxury Tony Stark watch from Meister Watches.
Yeah, I mean, and
It might not be the exact same one, but
that's a real world watch,
that
by
is
the
a
way.
real world. There's
Yeah,
only
yeah, yeah.
200 of those in the world that you can acquire. So I would assume very high
Do
end.
you think that it's, I mean, Tony being Tony, how many times did he pull a Michael Knight and just like talking to his wrist or talking to his glasses, right? Where first the Jarvis AI and then the Friday AI.
And then like the gauntlets and everything else that
Do
he
you
holds.
think that the watch is an AI enabled piece of technology?
It might be. Like it could be a nanotech suit in the form of a watch.
And that takes me back to what I said before. Canopy, canopy, canopy.
Yep.
Are we getting the setup for Armor War here?
We might be.
Yeah, maybe.
As maybe just like a throwaway because after this they don't talk about it again.
No secret, that is my most anticipated project for Marvel Television coming up.
Nice. So as we see the criminal saying, "Oh, I found the watch," we inspect it and we get a really condensed version of Lucky's origin.
Yep.
Because he attacks said criminal and he's biting him down, but he's also getting beat, and Kate saves him.
Yeah, she does.
So we don't know it yet, but technically, Lucky is biting one of the tracksuit mafia.
Yeah, he is. Even though we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she runs up, kicks the criminal in the head, and saves him. And he darts off, but he darts off into traffic. And then, Kate goes in pursuit and ends up saving him from getting hit by a bus. And in doing so, she's in full view of the public. And we know from later footage that she's been caught on cell phone. And
I just want to say, looking at this image of her holding Lucky in that embrace and seeing the ridiculous, there's no other way to say this, the ridiculousness of that hood on her, the fact that, she is not anywhere near the size of Jeremy Renner.
no.
So the idea that this is supposed to be the same Ronin suit that he wore, it's a little comical and a little bit. It takes you out of it just a little bit to go like, oh, this isn't even close.
No.
Um, but again, suspension of disbelief, and
Yep.
so you kind of roll with it.
Yeah, because I think mainly it's just the vest and the hood.
Yeah, there's nothing else to the
Yeah,
low. Maybe the gloves as well, I guess,
that's
maybe.
possible. But we do see her save the dog, and then they quickly flee because police and EMS are arriving on scene.
Yeah.
And members of the tracksuit mafia also post a hasty retreat because of the sirens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they
And
don't want to be around.
no, they want to get away with their loot. And we shift gears again, and back in Clint's hotel room, we see breaking news come on, and the TV is like the first sighting of Ronin in years. And it causes Clint to have like a flashback to his Ronin days.
I think as a viewer, that was the first time where I kind of stopped and gave pause to the idea that, oh, yeah, the general public does not know that Clint Barton was Ronin.
No,
I
that
mean,
piece is still hidden.
you think about, I'm going to use the Natasha analogy one more time about how much, again, the general public doesn't know that Natasha was a Russian spy either. But, in terms of like, where governments are concerned, there was a lot that was forgiven for
Yeah,
Natasha. But I mean, Ronin, I guess, is a little bit different in the sense that that was a personal crusade.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But and then we switch again back to Kate's apartment, and she postures, why is Armand threatening my mother?
Yeah.
Why is he buying illegal swords? And why did he have anything to do with the break-in? And she leaves some pizza for Lucky, which is another callback to the comics because he's like Lucky the pizza dog.
Yes.
She then makes her way to Armand's place to question him about the evening's events. And upon arriving, not only does she find that he has his own monogrammed butterscotch,
Yeah, that's right. Which is going to play
it will
into, yeah,
play in
that's going to
part
come
two.
up later. Yeah.
But we find that he has unfortunately been murdered.
Very much so.
Yeah, efficiently and brutally.
Like, that's a lot of blood laying there.
It is. So, she comes in, she finds this, and before long, one of Armand's assistants has returned with his dry cleaning and his dinner.
I'm not going to lie. At this point, I actually thought that with Kate standing there in the Ronin suit, that she was going to get fingered for the murder.
Well, she may yet because somebody spotted her leaving the scene.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought the housekeeper, the
Yeah.
lady, was gonna like, oh my god.
Yeah, she's too focused on
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
body, though. So, she exits the scene and she's on the run pretty quick, and she's cornered by the criminals from the break-in. And after trading blows with a few of them, she takes refuge in an unlocked car, but it's short-lived because one of the criminals smashes out the window.
Right.
And just as he's about to strike, an unseen assailant proceeds to take them down efficiently.
Yes.
And he then pulls Kate from the car and forces her down an alleyway, unmasking her to find out she's just a young woman, but she instantly recognizes him as Hawkeye.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And, he's left with, who the hell are you?
Doesn't he, or is it in the beginning of the next one where he's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Actually, I think he says it here. Are you kidding me? Who the
Yeah,
hell are you?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And with that, we cut to black and our first episode ends.
We're talking, what, a 40-minute episode?
51, I
Was
believe.
it? Oh, 51 for the first episode.
Yeah.
Did it feel like a 51-minute episode to you?
No, it was really fast paced.
I felt that the pacing was pretty good as well. Anything stand out for you in the first one?
After doing my research, I didn't realize there was as many comic book nods in there as there were.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Again, like I said,
I know I missed some. I know I did.
being as far removed from comic books now as I am. I don't appreciate that as much. For me, I'm going to go with how cringeworthy Rogers the Musical was. I actually was hoping that we'd see some of it, and now that we have, I wish we had. Sorry to say that, Marvel, but sometimes too much is too much.
There's still a call out there to make it happen.
Sometimes more is more.
It may come to Broadway someday.
You know what, though? If they do, so we talked about this before in our Disney Plus thing, where they flirted with this before with Matt Damon and Sam Neill doing the Asgardian the plays.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's funny. Ha 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 ha. And then we saw this like Rogers the musical thing. And then they actually gave us a taste of that. If Star Wars can make it as a musical, I guess you could adapt some of the MCU into a musical,
I'd say
but it would
so.
have to be done more lovingly than the satire we got in Hawkeye. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Fair enough.
All right, where are we going next?
Disney was kind enough to give us 2 episodes this week. So we move on to episode 2.
All right, 2 for 1. That seems to be the thing lately.
Dropping the first 2 at once.
Did we not get two sorry, it's Captain America, 2 Falcon and the Winter Soldier at once?
I believe so.
I think we did. Yeah, 2 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on.
This episode is called Hide and Seek, runtime of 52 minutes, directed again by Rhys Thomas, and this one is written by Elisa Clement.
Okay.
This one picks up directly where we left in episode 1. We find Clint in the alley with Kate, and she goes on to introduce herself, and they quickly quickly exit the scene because he says there are dangers in wearing this suit, which you do not know.
Did you find the way that she interacts with him, like even in the alleyway, like if he didn't pull the mask off of her and realize that it's because he says a kid, she was getting dummied. Like there's no question in my mind. But the way that she, I don't want to say disarms him, but verbally disarms him, that there is this childlike, not innocence, but there is a childlike quality to her. Do you get the impression, to me, it's very similar to the character she played in Bumblebee?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because in a second here, they go, she's taken with her hero. Like,
yes,
this
absolutely.
is her star moment. And, on the way back, she tells him of her training and how some people call her the world's greatest archer. But he shuts her right down. He's like, are you one of those people? And she's like, maybe. And then once they're in the apartment, he's all business. He's like, I want the Ronin suit. And she's like, no problem. But she's starstruck at the same time. And you can hear her going up the stairs. She's like, oh my God, the Hawkeye is in my apartment.
Yeah.
And she comes back down and she's like, I've answered your questions. I got about 1 million for you. But first, can you sign my bow?
Can you sign this? Yeah.
So, starstruck. She wants that autograph. She wants some tips and tricks. But
you and I in our personal lives have had a lot of celebrity interaction. Have you ever fawned over somebody like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, really?
I have.
Really?
I've Fan Expo a couple times, actually.
I mean, I always feel like, and I've said this before, to me, those experiences, Fan Expo, Comic-Con, or other conventions, those experiences I feel are what I would call canned experiences because you're paying for them. The venue is already, there's a predisposition to, okay, I am going to meet my fans today, therefore I have to be in fan receiving mode. But this is something completely different, and here she is, pardon the pun, but she gushing like a fanboy.
Yeah. But he's all business, and he says, how did you get the suit?
Yeah.
And she tells him it was a black market auction.
Yes.
But I didn't buy it. And he also asks, what did you do in the suit? And we find out that criminals from the break-in have, tracked her back. And, this is another callback to the comics because we find out they are the tracksuit mafia.
Right. Yeah, he does name drop it, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's a little on the nose, but he goes on to, before we get there, he goes on to ask her, did anybody see your face? And, the people who wore this suit made a lot of enemies. And she's certain no one else knew. And it's like a weird comedy back and forth because she's like, are you sure? Yes. Are you positive? Certain? Yes. And then he's like, did you go anywhere while you were wearing the suit? And she's like, oh, I just stopped here to drop off the dog.
Right.
And then we hear them calling from the street, and they're like calling for Kate Bishop.
Right. So now they know her by name.
Yep, because her name is on the buzzer.
And we're gonna get that. There's that cool moment from the trailer that with the Molotov cocktail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they fire one through the window and fire another, but before the third can come, Hawkeye breaks the window and returns it back at them, catching one of them on fire.
I actually really appreciated that. I mean, we've seen Hawkeye do some really cool things with a bow and arrow, but like, no surprise that when they huck the Molotov through the window, that
Yeah,
he catches it and tosses
coordination
it
to just
back. Yeah,
throw
just
her back.
yeah. And like I say, I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Before long, the apartment is fully on fire, and that causes Clint and Kate to leave with the dog, and they have to leave the suit behind. And the place is going up, but they quietly exit down the
Yeah,
fire escape.
yeah. I actually thought at this point it's almost it could have been, man. We've seen tons of media before where similar situation. There's a fire in a building and the sprinkler system goes off, but this, in light of what happens in this has got to be the most effective sprinkler system ever portrayed on television. Because the suit, in my mind, was lost to the fire
Should have
until
been.
until it wasn't.
Unless it was like one of those custom suits, got some Stark Tech in it or something.
Oh, that's an interesting question too. Where did the Ronin suit come from?
True.
Oh, that, my friends, is a story for another time.
Yep. So on the move, Clint tells Kate that they need to get some supplies, and she just assumes, ooh, Avenger supplies? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But in fact, they are going to get some Neosporin and rubbing alcohol and bandages.
Well, isn't that the point where she says that we're going to go to Stark Tower?
Yeah.
And
He's like,
he
I
says,
need
"Oh,
to find a place to stash you.
he sold it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And she's like, oh, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
right.
But she's like, we need a place to hide. And he tells her, you're about as useful to me as a bag of money right now.
Right.
Or no, she says, you're going to stash me like a bag of money. And he says, no, a bag of money would be useful.
Do we know where the series was filmed at this point?
I do not know, but I
'Cause I'm
assume it's actually shot somewhat in New York.
looking at the shelving there, and the Neosporin is sitting beside a bunch of Equate branded band-aids. I'm like, Walmart?
Yeah,
They go to Walmart for medical supplies?
maybe.
I guess.
But Kate tells him, there's a place she knows about 10 blocks away. And as they get there, we get our next Easter egg
Right.
in the buzzer with
This passed me by so quickly that I meant to go back and look at it to go, I need to see the names on the apartment listing to know, did they hide anything in there?
I don't know if they hid anything with the other ones.
Yep.
But this one I did catch. Uh, Kate refers to her as her aunt, but
Yep.
it's actually Moira Brandon,
Okay.
who was first mentioned in Avengers number 246.
Okay.
She is a movie star within the 616.
Yes.
And after her career, she retired to Palos Verdes estate,
All right.
which would eventually be purchased by the West Coast Avengers.
Oh, no way.
And while Hawkeye and Mockingbird came to investigate the place, they
Yeah.
were attacked by the villain Crossfire.
Oh.
And while they were down and out, they were actually saved by Moira, who used the crossbow against him.
Interesting.
But the stress of it was too much. And in her final moments, she's like at the end of her life in the comic book.
Well, I mean, judging by the photo you've pulled up of her, she's definitely a senior citizen.
Aunt May level.
Yeah.
Old
And
Aunt
not. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, not current Aunt May.
No.
But in her final moments, Hawkeye made her an honorary Avenger.
Okay.
So, but back to the MCU, Kate tells him, this is my aunt's place, and she's in Florida for the winter.
Yeah, she's in Florida.
She may well be at that estate.
The other, yeah.
But inside the apartment, we do get to see that there's a movie poster on the wall, and it's one of her films from the Marvel Universe. And turns out it's Creature of the Dark Galaxy.
Okay.
And I looked this up, but I could not find any reference for any specific movies that she played in.
So maybe it's just a fictitious
nod to her star career.
Yeah.
Within the comics. But Clint tells her, clean your wounds, lock the door, and stay put. I'm going back for the suit.
Yep.
And with emergency crews on scene, he quietly procures a fire department jacket and makes his way into the building.
Okay. Now, I am not a firefighter. I've never have been, but you have to accept when I say that the fire department any fire department stems. It's not an inaccurate description when I say they are a paramilitary organization, that they have a similar command structure. And when you think about full time firefighters who live in New York City, they all live together
They all know each
on
other.
the same shift.
Yep.
Was that really a convincing disguise to get through?
Maybe.
I
Maybe it was 2 districts.
It took me out of it. Well, it would have to be a multi-alarm fire to start pulling other fire companies in from other districts of the city. But it kind of it was one of the weaker. I'm not sure if I buy this.
I bought it. Fair enough.
Okay.
But as he's walking in, I'm not sure if the number on the helmet 54 is significant or not.
I assume this is a cover of Avengers 54.
This is the cover of Avengers 54.
Yes.
And in it, Jarvis actually betrays the Avengers and is revealed to be the true Crimson Cowl.
Oh.
As well, the Black Knight tries to warn them, but doesn't make it in time.
And how do you live that one down, Jarvis?
Exactly. But I don't know if that is like a reference to maybe the threat is coming from within.
The threat from within. Oh, maybe.
But, that it could be nothing.
Yeah.
But, he makes his way in and finds the suit's already gone. And that leads him back outside where he ditches the gear, but he lucks into a clue. And he finds the New York LARPers sticker.
Oh my god!
On the fire truck.
As soon as I saw that, I'm like, "Are you telling me one of the firefighters is a LARPer?
If not many of them."
Yeah. I mean, okay, I laugh at that, and I really shouldn't, because as somebody who is a lifelong, and I mean this with all sincerity, as a lifelong player of role-playing games, LARPing is not that far removed from the pastimes that I've engaged in.
No.
And certainly, let's be real about this. The idea of cosplaying and superheroes, it's almost like a joke within a joke.
Yeah. But it's become accepted now.
Of course it is. Yeah. Of course it is.
Just another aspect of nerd culture.
Yeah, for sure.
So, he heads back to Kate's aunt's apartment, and we find her on the phone with her mom. And Clint returns. He's going to patch up his own wounds, which he's let go for now. But noticing how Kate did hers, he's like, no, you did that wrong. Let me help you out.
Which I have to say, he did a good job, by the way, talking about approximating the wound and then closing it with a steri strip.
So, medical accurate.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good.
And it's kind of like a father-daughter bonding moment.
Yes, I'll buy that for sure.
But she heads off to bed, and he says, I'll be here for a minute. And she's like, I'll see you in the morning. And that's like the start. She just knows he's going to be there in the morning.
Yeah.
He goes, and with a quick Google search, he finds that the New York LARPers will be around there
hosting an event.
Yep.
Yep.
And because the most recent post is, it shows that one of them is indeed in possession of the costume.
Well, was there not was a YouTube video? I think
YouTube or Instagram or something of the like. But he's basically on there. He's like, "Oh, you've been complaining I don't have a good costume. Well, check me out now." So he knows exactly where it is. And then we close out the night. In the morning, he sets his kids off in a car to the airport, and Lila's pretty concerned, but she's like, "Promise me you'll be home for Christmas."
Yeah.
And he says, "Yes, I will be there." So
I should just point out there, we're talking about Lila and the kids, and there's an interaction here between for Clint and Lila, and Clint and their oldest son,
Cooper.
This is the biggest time jump from the blip in the MCU in terms of like how far post blip we are. Because if you go back to Endgame, the youngest kid was still an infant, or very, very young, and now he's like 5, 6, 7, 8,
maybe even 9.
Yeah.
But
the whole dynamic about who's in charge,
with Cooper being older, but Lila being more mature.
You're in charge. You've always been in charge. Don't let anything happen to them.
And don't lose Nate.
Of course. Yeah, don't lose Nate.
No, I was confused a little bit on Nate. Is Nate hearing impaired? because he's using some sign language, and
I
Clint is
think
right back to him.
I think that is a I think that's a way to communicate to us that the kids are adapting to Clint's disability.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in terms of a disability, but they are accommodating him.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we shift again back to Moira's apartment, and Clint tells her, you should stay here, be safe. And once again, that Rogers the musical, it rears its head as the media campaign comes up on the
Oh, I
TV.
know, the big commercial.
And it's weird. Like, the TV is really old.
Okay, so I'm not the only one who picked up on that
Yeah.
it's a
It's a
floor model CRT television,
very vintage.
like giant honking speakers on both
Yeah.
sides of it. Like that would have been a top of the line TV in its
It
day
would have been, yeah.
in like 1985. Not in 2021 or whenever this is supposed to be. Was the time jump for Endgame put us in where?
5 years post 2018, I think.
So 2023,
I think so.
and then this is supposed to be what, 2 years after that?
At least.
So this is like 2025,
something like that.
It's very convoluted.
Yeah. But they go on, and Kate tells him, I have to go to work, and it's a security company, so I'll be safe there.
Oh yeah. Going to her mom's company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's reluctantly, he like accepts it. He's like, you're not going to stay put, are you? And she's like, no. So he's like, go get changed. And they make their way down.
Do you think the security company was mom and dad's joint venture, or that one or the other parent was sort of the primary and the other one just went along with it?
I'm not too sure.
I'm not either. Do you think it's going to come up later?
Maybe, because Kate has, suspicions and whatnot. But
I feel like the security company is an easy way to write off access to stuff, even if stuff just means money.
Well, not just money, but multiple times in the show, she uses like, "Oh, look, I got security access."
Yeah,
so I
I mean,
just
the whole
triangulate wherever your phone is.
Right, the whole "give me your number" thing.
Yeah.
Come on.
On the way to the company, though, we get a couple more Easter eggs, and
Yeah.
we do. It's this time it's a nod to Disney itself,
Right.
with the Disney store actually showing
Oh
up.
yeah,
In the
that's right.
background.
That's right. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but next to it is a store called Forever. So Disney Forever.
Disney Forever.
But
that's so cute.
That's totally not the only one in this.
Oh, they got
Robert John Burke, better
Yeah.
known as the Naked Cowboy.
the Naked Cowboy.
Who has gained notoriety performing in Times Square in New Orleans.
in his underwear.
Yep. Been arrested as well.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. So he's there hiding in the background. But
What's really cool, and I know, like, for those of you who are consuming this through our audio platforms, you can't see this, but I mean, you can certainly go and research the Naked Cowboy and see this. But like the photo within the photo that you have that we're looking at presently, could that have been like within the same time frame of when they're filming it? Because the girls that are with him, it's cold out. They're wearing like hats and coats, and
it's quite possible.
And in the show, both Clint and Kate are like coats, and like it's
Christmas time.
Yeah.
This particular photo came from his Facebook page. So
you gotta wonder if
he's
he's I'd be interested, and I probably will, is I'll go and check out his social media to see if there was anything around the time of the production, to see if they gave him a shout out or anything like that.
It's quite possible.
Yeah,
the expanded version of this photo does show the Disney store in the background.
Interesting. So it's
literally
like
on
the same corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
But they continue walking, and Clint switches places with her, and she's remarks like, "Oh, what a gentleman." And he's like, no, it's just, I need to hear you, and points out the hearing aid.
Yeah.
And as they're walking, a child calls out, "Oh, there's a superhero." And the mom's like, "Oh, go get a photo with him."
Right.
And he thinks it's for him.
He thinks it's him. Yes.
So he turns, but then you hear in the background, Hulk smash. And turns out it's a bunch of cosplayers that are doing the Times Square performance thing. And, we see Captain America, Thor, Ant-Man, and Kate points out, "Oh, look, there's you."
It's you.
But he's like, "No, that's
Katniss Everdeen
from Hunger Games."
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So he's up on his movies.
Which means that the Hunger Games exists in the MCU.
Yes. And Disney exists within the MCU.
That's yeah.
So
Well, why wouldn't they?
true. But Kate goes on to tell Clint that your problem is branding.
You know what? It just occurred to me. Can you go back to that image for a second?
Yeah.
As we're looking at this, does that not look like the authentic helmet to Ant-Man 1?
It's possible.
My God. Well, mind you, it's got some dents in it, so maybe it's a rubber mask, but it could have been cast or pulled out of that.
Most certainly. Like
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
access to it.
Well,
So
this is what
why
I
not?
mean. They've got they've got all the assets. They can do whatever they want with it. But I mean, that's probably one of the better Ant-Man costumes I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
But going on to her telling him it's branding is your problem, he retorts, "No, it's you, and it's the Ronin suit."
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
she says, "No, it's your branding."
But that also speaks to the idea that the general public does not know
Who he is,
who Ronan really is.
or for that matter, he's not the most popular Avenger.
No.
But he asks her, "What do you think I'm selling?" And she's like, "You're selling inspiration. You inspire people."
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah,
That's definitely true. I mean, certainly that goes right back to when her father's office was blown out of their building.
yeah.
I mean, she was so fixated on
Well, in the face of all that
yeah,
destruction, here's somebody still, out there
a
trying to save
normal
people.
and that's the thing too, right? It was sort of the Clint is the butt of all the jokes about a guy with a bow.
Yeah.
Not to her.
No.
Not to her.
Can run out of arrows and still
Yeah,
be
yeah,
heroic.
yeah.
But they arrive at Bishop Security, and Clint figures if all goes well, this will be the last time they see each other.
Yep.
And he says, "Here, put your number in for emergencies only."
Yes.
And she's like, "Okay."
Yeah, yeah. And then the whole I'll call you. No, please don't.
Yeah. And he wishes her Merry Christmas and says the goodbyes, and she's like, "I'll call you later."
Yeah, yeah, please don't.
Emergencies only.
Uh,
But once in the building, she goes straight for her mom's office, and she bursts in and starts to talk to her. But then out of nowhere, Jack's there too, and he's there, and she, nicely enough, she offers condolences to him about his uncle.
I think it because, as much as you don't like somebody, you're not going to be a complete jackass in the face of you just lost a relative or, someone close to you.
Yeah. But there's this weird tension going on between the two of them. Like she doesn't trust him,
No.
and I don't know how far he is on her, but like he's it is like a fencing duel, which we
Yeah,
will
yeah, yeah.
literally see later, but
Oh, yes.
they are definitely sparring.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And just as she's right about to cut to the point and ask about the inheritance, Eleanor cuts her off and inquires about the outfit she's wearing and the fire in her apartment.
Yeah. There was a fire in your apartment last night. You want to talk about
And
that?
she's like, "Well, and then, but Jack jumps in quick and he's like, don't worry about it. She's only testing the new dynamic because she's threatened by my presence."
And
And he understands why.
but, in light of, I shouldn't say what we know because we don't really know a lot about him, but in light of what we've seen,
Yeah.
that would be I don't want to say he's trying to fit in, but
Well,
on some level, he's trying to downplay, like, 'cause she's already suspicious of him. And I think he knows that she's suspicious of him at this
yeah.
point.
But he goes out and he says, "I bought a book on how to be a stepdad."
Right.
And she's like, "Well, money well spent."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Sarcasm.
yeah, thinking the discussion might be left till later, Eleanor invites Kate to dinner where Jack will be cooking,
Right.
and she accepts, but only if she can select the conversation topics.
Yeah, I
So
found that a weird line. That was a weird
uh,
line.
it just mean for me, she's just gonna jump right in it.
Does that tie into the whole what happens at dinner with the
I think so.
oh, okay.
But again, we shift gears and we jump over to Central Park, where Clint has found the LARPers, but he's barred from entry until it's over.
Sorry, you can't go in.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
And he's
Gotta
like,
be
"When's it over?" And they're like, "Midnight."
yeah, 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 yeah.
So rather than wait, he signs up to participate, and he gets his mission papers and his armor. And
He doesn't even and it's funny because he's like, "Do I have to?" Because as this is happening, I'm like, he's an Avenger. Like, he doesn't need this. He doesn't need this armor. He could
No.
just wipe the floor with all of them. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah. But once he's in there, he quickly clears his way through the crowd to get to his target, who agrees, I'll give you the suit, but could I kill you?
Can I kill you?
Because this will be as close to a real superhero as he
Yeah,
will
yeah,
ever
yeah.
be. And it just speaks to Clint's,
Isn't that an interesting, like the whole don't meet your heroes thing? And then here is an Avenger standing in front of you, and what it would mean for them. I mean, here's a guy who, like, we think he's a firefighter. Um, and let's not it's not lost on me that firefighters are heroes too. Like,
yeah,
they absolutely are. But for him, who's just a normal dude, how much that would mean for him in terms of, status with his LARPing friends.
yeah. And like the girl on the left, or yeah, I guess she's on the left, but she points out, a lot of these guys are firefighters, they are police
Yeah,
officers.
firefighters and cops. Yeah.
So you don't want to start anything here.
No, no. Of course, they don't know who he is.
No.
Yeah.
Well, she says like, I know who you are,
Oh, yes.
but I
Yes,
don't
that's
want it to
true.
get messy.
Right.
So
And it would get messy because unless they got guns,
yeah,
there's nobody taking him down.
no.
That's what I mean.
But again, we shift gears and we jump back over to Bishop Security, and we find Kate on her way out, and she's sending some texts that are, playful yet unknowingly hurtful. And miss me yet? Don't pretend to be busy. We both know you don't have any friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking she doesn't know about Natasha.
Probably not. I don't know. This is the thing, right? What does the world? We saw at the end of the Black Widow film, we saw the headstone, which was, we know that she's dead.
Yeah.
But what did they tell the world? Did they tell the world anything? I mean, when an Avenger dies, at this point, that's got to mean something to the general public.
Yeah.
So what did they tell the rest of the world?
Because it's not like she got a big funeral.
No.
Yeah. So who knows there?
I mean, do you think they know that she died in space on another planet, potentially in another reality?
I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am too.
Yeah. But thinking that it's Clint returning her call, she answers.
Yep.
And it turns out it's not. It's Detective Cottle, who is calling to question, about the burnt out apartment. And this is another comic book throwback. Detective Cottle made his first appearance in Hawkeye Volume 4, number 14.
Oh, okay.
And in the comics, he worked with Kate while they were trying to bring Flint Ward to justice, who was an arson criminal and florist.
Arson. Funny that he's chasing an arsonist.
Yeah.
And there's a fire.
Yeah. So it could be more than that, or it could just be,
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. But, he's like, we would like you to come in for a talk. And she catches Jack out of the corner of her eye, and she's like, I'm at work. I can't really do it right now. He's like, okay, tomorrow before work.
Yeah. How about tomorrow?
She's like, sure. And after that, they've made the appointment, and we shift again. We go back over to Central Park.
Back to the park. Yeah.
Where we find, Hawkeye is engaging in trial by combat for the suit.
It's funny how just nonplussed he is. And I love this. I love the whole sequence because of the the slow motion just makes it so much more impactful. But like, look at how, like, just not thrilled he is as he's like literally, he's not even like swinging the thing. He's just literally touching the other LARPers with the sword, and they're like, oh, and they're like,
they're going full
over exaggerating, like falling down. And he's just like, yeah, whatever.
And this scene in particular, there's a guy in the crowd, and he's making all the sword clanking noises. Yeah. Ka-ching, ka-ching. And Clint leans right in. He's like, kill me. He's like, no, we gotta make it look real.
There's no offense to like actual LARPers out there, but like, you can't tell me that there's a guy off to the side who's doing Foley.
Maybe.
Is there? I don't know.
Well, it'd be fun
to do the Foley.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to do it in this environment in a studio. I don't know if it'd be fun to do it standing on the side of the watching it.
I don't know. We've all made noises.
Okay. Yes, we have. I'll leave it at that.
But Hawkeye plays along, and getting mid duel, he's like, "Come on, kill me." make the kill shot.
Yeah, yeah.
And finally he does, and the duel is over. And afterwards, he hands over the suit, and Clint gives him his stuff back. He says, can you drop this off at the front desk? I don't need this on my credit card.
Yeah, yeah,
He's like, yeah, they will charge you.
yeah. Yeah, they will. I like the line between them, or I guess between Clint and the firefighter, where he's like, "Listen, this is what I want." He's like, we can either do this, and you can give me the suit,
Or I can knock you out
or
and
I will
take
knock
it.
you out, and I will still take the suit.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even bat an eye. He's like, "I'll just give it to you.
Yeah.
I'll just
But
give it
can
to
you
you."
help me out with one thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But they have this really great exchange because he's like, call me Clint.
yeah,
And he's like, really? He's like, oh, you don't know how much I appreciate this. Like, I'm going to be telling my people about this for ages.
yeah, yeah.
And it's true, right? Like,
I feel like that the interaction they spend a lot of time setting that up, like the whole "call me Clint" thing. That I feel like somewhere down the line in the series, we have not seen the last of this
particular
as
firefighter.
of yet nameless firefighter.
Oh no, he's got a name. It's Grills.
Grills. Okay, yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. But
I think he's coming back.
it's possible. But he takes off and he calls home to let them know he's going to be another day or so because he still has to deal with the tracksuit mafia.
Right.
And Laura tells him, you got 5 days to keep your promise and be home for Christmas.
Yep.
And she's, what's the play you're going to use? And he says, I'm going to use catch and release.
Yes.
And she's like, all right, just be safe.
Catch and release, which is like in no way a reference to the Black Widow's style of.
Yeah. Well, the scene coming up, it really reminiscent of that opening scene where Natasha is
With a telephone call. It's for you.
Yeah.
It's for her.
Yep.
What? I'm working.
Yep. But we shift back to Eleanor's apartment and we find her and Jack and Kate having dinner.
Yeah.
And that tension is still there.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
And they're sparring again, still back and forth. And Kate asks him about his swords.
Yeah, verbally sparring.
Yeah, which leads to a quick, a roundabout chat about fencing.
Yeah.
And she lays down the challenge, well, why don't we go around?
She makes a point to say that she's got some extra gear, which tells me that very clearly, if there was any doubt, that's her mom's house.
Yeah.
Before they ever got together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when she comes back at first, she shows her another medal and she's like, add this to the pile.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So he's, quick. I don't know if this is just because he's trying to, win points with Eleanor, but he's quick to say, yeah, let's do it. It's a great way to bond.
Yep.
And, they go for it. And as they're going back and forth, he's on retreat. She is on advance. And multiple times she admonishes him, don't let me win.
Yeah. I mean, even let's put ourselves, if you or I were in Jack's shoes, you would not just stand there, take a few steps back and let yourself get hit. No. You and I, as novice, never held a foil, epee or whatever, would not, as a fencer, would not just stand there and go, oh, okay, you got me, ha ha ha.
You're really good.
Right. Which just like, at that point, you're like, oh, I don't like you.
Yeah, because he's got that air about him, right?
He does. And he's got that cheesy little mustache. I hate it.
But, she keeps advancing and he's like, I'm not hiding anything. I'm an open book. And finally, he takes his headgear off and so does she. And she just advances anyway. And without even looking, he disarms her.
Yeah, exactly.
And in doing so, see, that proves it. He's lying.
And I agree with her. You are lying.
Yeah. But right on cue, he's like, yeah, I did downplay my skill. But I am sorry for that. And she's like, no, I proved you were lying.
Yeah.
Which I successfully did. But the mother's like, no, you just tried to stab him in the head.
She doesn't. Yeah. Mom does not see that was the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point, Jack, he takes his leave and, Mom's still, what are you thinking? But I think this might be a good time to touch on his comic book counterpart.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get into that.
So in the comic books, he is Jacques Duquesne.
Jacques Duquesne. Yeah.
Sometime villain, sometime hero. He started out as a circus performer with a mastery over knives, swords, and blade typed
Yeah,
weapons,
yeah.
and he was known as the swordsman.
The swordsman. I mean, the motifs are there.
The purple and
We're
blue, yeah.
pretty much on the nose here that that's who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the comics, he would become a mentor to a young Clint Barton.
Interesting.
So Barton, unfortunately, would be the one that discovered he had robbed the circus they were working for to pay his mounting gambling debts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that would cause him to flee. And he would go on to commit crimes around the world. And at one point, he tried to join the Avengers thinking it could lead him to a bigger score.
Oh.
But he is found out and saved by the Mandarin, of all people,
Oh, really?
who gives him a tech upgrade and
Okay.
then falsifies documents and sends him back again to join them, which he does. But he ends up developing a crush on the Scarlet Witch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And during this big plan of the Mandarins, fearing for her safety, he goes in and he disarms the bomb. But unfortunately, doing so, he gets caught red handed with the bomb. And
Yep.
they think, oh, you're trying to blow us up.
Oh, okay.
So he would flee again and he reverts to crime, but only for a short while because his heart's no longer in it.
Okay.
And then he would meet Mantis. Yes.
Oh,
Mantis.
really? That Mantis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who would convince him, you can be a hero again.
Right, right, right.
And he would eventually lose his life while saving hers from Kang the Conqueror.
Well, it's funny now that you've laid all that out that to me, it sounds like he's primarily been portrayed as a hero. They certainly are not setting him up to be that way.
No, but like Hawkeye started out as a villain as well.
When you
right?
talk about that's true. When you talk about your we talked about this in our Masters of the Universe review with Goatman and Pigboy about, when those guys are showing up, you've reached the bottom of the barrel. Going all the way back to, the original like Iron Man 1. I mean, Iron Man was not an A-list character
No.
prior to the MCU. Where do you put,
The swordsman?
the swordsman? Like Z-list?
Maybe.
I don't know. Like,
Well,
I've never heard of this
hailed
character
him
before.
as the worst Avenger.
The worst Avenger. Okay.
But,
fair enough.
All who you ask. But, and, there's many more tales past his death because he's resurrected a couple times but,
A couple of times.
A couple of times.
Well, that's comic books for you.
Yeah, totally. But we'll get back to our show here. And,
all right.
Kate's still convinced that Jack is hiding something.
Well, and so am I, for the record, by the way.
Yeah. Asks her mother, how much of a coincidence is it that Armand was killed the same night that he threatened Eleanor by a sword in New York?
Yeah.
And, she's like, that's just crazy. You're being nuts. And then Jack re-enters the scene and Eleanor, she's quick, let's put this behind us. Then, you got to apologize to him, which she does.
Yeah. She wants to move on.
Yeah. Which, she apologizes, but she's really snide with it. She's like, sorry for making you tell the truth.
Yeah.
And again, still verbally sparring with him.
What's funny, though, is that, like, as a young person who has lashed out against, adults, I've said similar lines. Like, I still think you're a beep, but you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for making you tell the truth. Like, you're still you're
still something wrong.
You're still
But then we get our next clue and he offers her a butterscotch.
And that's why I say, like, maybe he really is.
Maybe. But she quickly recognizes, like, oh, those are those monogrammed butterscotches.
Right. And that's where I'm like, oh, he is definitely hiding something. And
Yeah.
like, you can't tell me that he just randomly picked up. He didn't just randomly offer her a monogram butterscotch to say that, oh, I had nothing to do with the death of Armand.
But he might. I mean, it is his
Maybe.
uncle. He would be over there visiting. And
Sure.
if he doesn't have the money, why not grab a handful of butterscotch for the road?
And I suppose as a red herring, yes, that can work, but it really, really lends itself
It
to
does.
like, you want to like twirl your cheesy mustache and
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. But they are the same butterscotch, and that leads Kate. She's
Oh,
made
yeah.
her connection now.
Yep.
And she's like quick to grab her stuff, saying, I forgot something at work. And the mom, she's like, I'm your boss. I'm pretty sure I can fix it.
Yes.
And she's like, no, I just remember what time it is. I gotta go.
Yep. Yep.
And off she goes. And Jack, it's unclear how much he knows about her, but the look on his face, he knows something.
Well, yeah.
But
of course he does. Of course he does.
you know, so again, we switch gears and we catch up with Clint, and we find out, he's put his plan into action, and he gets himself caught by the tracksuit mafia.
Yep. On purpose.
On purpose.
Right.
And Kate calls, but he doesn't answer. So she tries calling like right again, and she's like, "Oh, back-to-back calls work." So she thinks she's got him, but no, someone else has picked up the phone.
Clint
and says,
Barton can't come to the phone right
yeah.
now.
And her thinking Clint's in danger, she's like, taxi driver, you got to go faster.
Yeah.
And inside the lair of the tracksuits, we find Clint all tied up, and he's verbally sparring with these guys.
Yep.
And the way they personify these guys, it's a weird cross between like Russian and street slang.
When I saw these guys, the joke is, I don't know. Did you see the movie Owen Wilson and the guy who played oh my god, Lex Luthor from the classic Superman movies, Gene Hackman?
Yeah,
they did that movie where Owen Wilson is a Navy fighter pilot behind enemy lines. The first Behind Enemy Lines.
You know what? I don't think I've seen it.
The Behind Enemy Lines is based on a true story of an American fighter pilot who was shot down in Bosnia. And man, I deployed to Bosnia in my first tour, and the joke was the tracksuit thing. Almost exactly the same style that we're seeing in Hawkeye.
Oh no.
We called it the Bosnian tuxedo.
Oh geez.
And so as soon as I saw there's a whole tracksuit gang, I'm like, are they all Eastern European? And it's like, oh. And then they come out with this like thick Eastern European accent, and I'm like, oh, that's even more on the nose. Yeah.
But yeah, the sparring goes back and forth, and he's like, "Oh, as far as lairs go, this isn't bad." And he's like, "Oh, come on, bro, this is what they could afford." Lofts are getting all torn up, and you can't get warehouses anymore.
And they make a point of. Did you catch the line where they say they refer to? Presumably, they're referring to some boss, and they say she doesn't want him dead.
I did see that. Yeah.
Who is she?
Well, we'll find her in a second.
Okay.
But Clint says, I'm here to be civil. I only want to talk to the boss. Talking to you guys is like talking to furniture.
Yeah.
And they demand, where is Kate Bishop?
Yep.
And he's like, I'm not the guy you're after. And they're like, Kate Bishop is. And
right,
he's like,
right.
No, Kate Bishop is not the guy.
Yeah.
And as they're sparring back and forth here, Kate unknowingly falls through the skylight.
Unwittingly.
Yeah.
Oops.
And they've got them all drawn down, and she's like, "Oh, were we supposed to bring guns?"
Yeah.
But shortly after that, they're both tied up again and secured to. I'm assuming,
they look like those
quarter
like,
rides.
throw a quarter in it and get a kind of ride on it.
Yeah, but they kind of laugh at that, and he's like, "Just don't talk." And one of the Ivans says, "Uh-oh, you're in trouble now, bro."
Yeah.
And behind closed doors, we find the leader of the tracksuit mafia, who is played by Aquila Cox, Maya Lopez, aka Echo.
So we talked about this in the trailer, not the trailer, the Disney Plus day, talking about this character. Now this character is set to springboard into something else.
Her own spin-off series.
Yeah.
But I think we should save her origins for the next episode.
That's fair.
She's got ties to criminal underworlds and the Kingpin. And
okay, well that's probably yeah.
Not to spoil too much.
Well, doesn't that just lend itself to the idea about who purchased Avengers Tower?
Quite possibly.
Oh, interesting.
But we focus up on her, and they tell her, we've got them both, and she beckons them go away.
Yeah. Sends everybody away.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we cut to black, and that's it. Episode 2 in the books.
So we're not really sure. Obviously, she's going to interrogate them alone.
Yeah.
Certainly that conversation is going to look different than what your typical goon would have with them.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting to see where that's going to go.
True. And maybe the foreshadowing with the kid trying to, sign with Clint.
Yeah.
Will give them a direct line of conversation.
Yeah, maybe. That being said, any predictions for the next episode?
I think we're going to pick up straight away.
I think
just
so
like
as well.
we did in 2.
Any predictions on how or when the Kingpin might make an appearance in this?
I do not know. I don't know how they're going to slot him in yet.
There's been some discussion that Kingpin will appear in this.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
I have heard that.
Did you hear that it might possibly be the Into the Spider-Verse version, but just done in CGI?
I really hope not.
I also hope
that was not my favorite version of the Kingpin.
No.
I want more Vincent D'Onofrio.
I'm right there with you. Vincent D'Onofrio for the win for me.
Yeah. But there is one line that indicates, yes, we might be getting him. And it's when he's talking to his wife and he says, I got to deal with the tracksuits because I don't know how far up it goes.
Who said that? Oh, Clint
Hawkeye
said that.
says
yes,
that to
yes.
Laura,
Clint did say that to Laura. That's
so
correct,
that leads me to believe, he's going to follow the chain up to the boss of
I mean, and how far do you chase it? Like how far does it go?
Exactly.
Ugh. What's above the Kingpin? Is there anything above the Kingpin?
Don't know.
Interesting.
Well, back in the day, there was multiple bosses and multiple territories.
That is true. Yeah.
You had your Silvermanes and whatnot.
Well, what do you think, man? That was our that's our first kick at On Target. That's our Fandom Power look at the Marvel Studios series Hawkeye.
Yeah.
What do you think?
As far as opening episodes go, like those 2 back to back, really strong start.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to number 3
next week, or this week actually. So
Wednesday, I believe.
Wednesday we'll be consuming the episode. We'll take the remainder of the week to write the show, and then we'll be back next week, Sunday. I don't even know what the date is. The next.
I think we're into December by that point.
Are we into December?
Quite possible.
All right. Well, we should be back to normal by then. We should have Hank back with us on the cast.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I hope you got anything you want to close on?
You know what? Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, that's what I want to say as well. Thank you for sticking with us, for hope you enjoyed the show. And again, if you don't catch us here live on YouTube, you can always catch us later on as the video will be made available. And you can find us on all of the audio platforms where you like to consume your podcast, particularly on Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Podcasts. And if you like what we do, as always, I hope that you comment, like, and share what we're doing with your friends and your like-minded folks. But again, until the next one, which is going to be sooner than you think.
If we missed anything, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to know.
Because I'm pretty sure I probably did.
Well, and that is part of, I think that's part of the fun of what we do.
Yeah, they layer it in heavy.
Oh, they do too. And we can't all be experts on everything, but we sure do like to pretend.
Yep.
All right. Well, until the next one, Andy, thanks very much for taking the lead on this one. I look forward to our next episode. But until then, for Fandom Power, I'm Wes.
I'm Andy.
We'll talk to you next time.
Have a good night.
You too.